Okay, we've reached opening day 2028, and the Las Vegas Bashletics are predicted to go 162, which would be the best record of anyone in Major League Baseball this season. And you can see here we'd be obviously atop the AL West standings, so that's some good news, but we'll see if we can actually live up to the preseason predictions. And, a couple categories looking pretty good in. If we can have the best ERA in the AL West, that would be fantastic. And the second best batting average, and the most stolen bases, and kind of low on the home run totals, but that's okay. That's okay. We're maybe a different type of team, but we've got some power hitters there. We'll see how that pans out. So let's take a look at things. We did make some moves in the offseason, so let me just tell you about a couple of the bigger free agent signings that we made. We decided to let some guys go as well, and then we made some trades, including one to bring in a couple new players. It was kind of a big deal for us. So you'll notice we have a new third baseman here. So this is exciting. I mean, his name alone is exciting to have on your team, and he is almost 37 years old. And we have him signed this season, next season, and then a player option the season after. So in order to get him, we had to sign him for longer than I'd like to sign a 36, almost 37-year-old guy. But he's been still, my scout still thinks highly of him, and I can put him in at third base without any concerns at all about defense. So that's nice. And then we've got his bat. You can see what his numbers have been like lately. He was pretty good last year, but had kind of some disappointing seasons just before that. And then, he's slowly kind of worked his way back from 2025, a real down year, got a little better in 26, quite a bit better in 27, and we'll see how it goes for us. If he can be a positive in the OPS column, that's fantastic, while driving in some runs for us, and our fans were excited too. So that's all good. We also have a new catcher. Here you go. You guys might know him. Anyway, I like Vasquez for a few reasons. Arenado's great for those reasons at third base, and Vasquez brings some similar traits as a catcher. Strong defensively, not quite sure about his bat right now, but great leadership. So these are good things for our team, and you can see the numbers he's put up recently. So, he was above average last year offensively and put up decent WAR. We'll see how it goes. It's just for 1 year. So $17 million for one season. He is 37, almost 38, and he's kind of probably a one and done guy, but we'll see what happens. So those are two guys, Arenado and Vasquez, who we brought in the offseason via free agency. We also did make a trade. So once we signed Arenado and he was penciled in as our third baseman, we had a few middle infielders who, we had a little too much talent there. So we have Horner at second base still. And then we had Gabriel Arias was going to back up Carrasco, the international guy we brought in last season, an older guy. He's already 31 now, and we had signed him to 2 years, and there was a player option, I think it was, for a third year. So that was Carrasco. We ended up moving him out because we could get a lot for him, and Arias had better numbers than he did last season. He put up 2.8 WAR. He had an injury at one point, but the season before he'd been 4.3 WAR. So he came back. He put up still some solid offensive numbers, and I'm hoping he still has a solid glove at shortstop for us. So we've got him there, and it was kind of a no-brainer. He's cheaper. He had put up better numbers last season, and we could get a lot for Carrasco. So I'll show you what we did. Here's one of the players we brought in. So this is a starting pitcher who I think has some definite upside. I mean, my manager has him penciled in to be our number one pitcher, but he's extreme ground ball, so that works well for our short porch of 285 here in Vegas. And I'm excited to see what he can do pitching for us. He's dealt with some injuries, but my scout still likes him, and we'll see what he can do. So we've got him at a very affordable price right now for a guy who's going to be one of our top starters. So let me show you, the rest of this deal. So here's Edgar Carrasco, who we traded away. As you can see, really good defensively and did okay for us last year, but not great in offensive categories. Only batted 190. His OPS plus was weak. So I just thought we could do a little better there, especially since we were paying him $10 million. And you can find a glove for under $10 million. So we got Andre here as one of our starters. This is one of the other big pieces for us. He's not going to be a superstar, but this is a guy who I thought we could plug in the outfield. He's put up good numbers defensively, and I think he has an opportunity to, have a nice year offensively if he gets to play every day. He did really well in spring training, so he's intelligent. We're going to see what happens there. He's a fly ball pull hitter, so that should be interesting as a right-handed hitter with those traits in our ballpark. We'll see what happens there. And so Kelenic was our previous outfielder there in that position, and we didn't offer him arbitration. So we decided just to move on because he was going to end up getting probably close to $9 million or more, and he just wasn't doing it offensively. Great defensively, but still putting up really low WAR numbers, and I thought we could improve. I mean, we had basically guys we could bring in from AAA that I thought could do just as well. And then we also brought in a couple other, this outfield prospect here I brought in as part of that deal with his work ethic and intelligence. I thought he has, and these numbers, these ratings defensively, I thought he has some real potential. So he's another guy. And then we also brought in a reliever. So a lefty reliever. We were kind of short on lefties in the bullpen. And Crotchet was a guy who I'd looked at before in trades, approaching the trade deadline before, but there wasn't really something that was going to work for me. And we were able to get him as part of this deal. He's very reasonable. He's signed just through the season at $1.8 million. So he's another arm in our bullpen. So I'm happy with that. And we moved on from a couple other guys who were kind of, some bench players, but nobody really from our main lineup. Everybody else that we have slated to go here, you're probably familiar with from last season. Soderstrom right now, for whatever reason, my manager doesn't have him penciled into DH, which is nuts. I'll probably force play him at DH. Durango here's a free agent signing we brought in, and he had a really good spring, and he made the team over some other guys, so we're going to see how he pans out. Angeles is a guy who we had up last year for a little bit after he was down at AAA. I don't think he's a long-term solution for us as a backup middle infielder. I'll probably end up bringing up somebody or keeping an eye on the waiver wire if he's not hitting or if his defense isn't where it needs to be. But I wanted to give him a shot. We'll see what he can do for us. And then Brian Belvas, I'm not sure if that's the way you say his name, but he's a guy who's been hanging around for us for a while down in AAA. You can see here putting up some pretty good numbers, and it's just time to see what he can do. He's almost 26 years old, and he made the team after a pretty solid spring, and so we've got him there as well. If there's a place we can improve, even though we're predicted to win 100 games, I think it's on the bench here. One other guy to show you, because he's probably going to move to the bench once we force start Soderstrom at DH. But he's a solid guy with a glove who has put up some decent numbers. I was excited about him back here in 26 with the numbers he put up in AAA. He's never quite done that in the majors for us. At one point, the AI had sent him actually down to AA at one point in 27. But, he's definitely a guy who's a AAA, sometimes getting a chance at the majors, coming off the bench as a fourth or even early fifth outfielder. So I don't know what's going to happen with him, but we're going to give him a shot right now. So, if there's one area where we can improve, it's these bench guys, because I feel pretty good. I mean, really good about our starting lineup. There aren't really many questions there. Maybe Davis in right field. We'll see how he pans out as, a guy who is going to get a chance with us, and we'll see what he can do. But, we might be able to improve on a couple of these guys as the season goes on. And really where I'm going with this is I'd kind of spent right up to my cap budget-wise, so I couldn't really bring in anybody else in a backup role here who would be an improvement over these guys, but I didn't really also want to create a logjam because behind these guys I have some prospects coming up, and if any of them start hitting at AAA or AA, I want to be able to bring them up. So that's where we're looking right. That's how we're looking right now in terms of the offense. Now, as far as the pitching goes, I'm really looking forward to seeing how some things play out here. So a lot of these guys are back from last year, but I do have quite a few guys in AAA who will probably be up sometime this year, including some of my bigger pitching prospects and just one of my bigger prospects overall. But in terms of the starting rotation right now, Palante is the guy I brought over in the trade that I was just talking about. And let's see, everybody else was here last year. So the rotation's all guys who have come back. I'd say I've got my top 3 I'm pretty happy with. And then by the time I get to 4 and 5, Holman is a guy who came in and just pitched well enough in the rotation. I guess it was back in 26. And then did even better last year. And he was fine. He's fine as like a 4th or 5th guy. And, ideally maybe a 5th guy in a strong rotation. And then David Leal was a guy who was out of my bullpen originally, but then when there were injuries or guys not performing, he kept kind of working his way into the rotation. So he ended up getting into 26 games last year, and 15 of them were games where he started. And he did pretty well. So I've got like 2 guys there at 4 and 5 where, in a deep rotation, maybe at least one of them's in long relief. But for right now, it's fine. And I'm going to see how this goes. I did not bring back J.P. Sears. He's probably the only guy missing here. He was 31. He didn't want a lot of money. In arbitration, I think he was going to get about $4 million, but I just didn't want to get a guy who, was getting a little bit maybe past his prime, it seemed, and really just didn't want to block some of these other guys I have coming up. So I'll show you that in a minute on the AAA team. In terms of the bullpen, it's very similar to last year. I did bring Beeks back again. He hit the open market, and then I signed him for 1.5. He wanted a lot more when it was time to, talk extension. So I didn't do that, and then I got him for much cheaper out on the open market. Crotchet was the guy I got in the trade I was just telling you about. The only free agent here I brought in was Abreu. He's a ground ball pitcher, so I really like that. I liked his numbers last year. Didn't give up a lot of home runs, and that's good in our ballpark, and it makes sense. He's a ground ball pitcher, so he also is a guy. His stamina is maybe not where it needs to be, but he's a guy I thought, if I need another starter at some point, he could potentially get some starts. Last year, he was about half and half. So for Cincinnati last year, he started 23 out of the 44 games that he pitched in. So we brought him in. Now let's go look at AAA because this is where there's some stuff going on where this guy Gunderson. So he is my top prospect right now. He's the number 7 prospect in baseball. He was a draft pick of mine in the first round. He was our first round pick, 15th overall, just last June. So he hasn't even been a professional player for a year yet. So he was a college pitcher though. So coming right out of college, he only stayed at A for one start, and then I think it was the AI promoted him, and then at some point I think I took over his promotions. But he was only for a few starts at high A, and then I honestly can't remember if it was me or the AI that put him at double A. So he's had very few starts, like 11 professional starts. And my manager at the end of spring training had him as like my number 2 or 3 starter. And if you look at the preseason predictions, he is in the top pitchers. Let's go to the American League. There he is right here. Going 16-7, over 10 Ks per 9, 3.3 ERA, striking out 220 guys, only walking 97. I guess not only walking. It's a good number of walks. But he has never pitched in AAA. And with only 11 minor league games pitched, I'm not going to start him up with the big club. So he will be probably one of the first call-ups. And I don't know if I would use him out of the bullpen first and give him some experience at the major league level in long relief, and then maybe throw him into the starting rotation at some point. We'll see. So that's, something interesting that's happening. It's going to be hard not to promote him this year, even though he's had such little minor league experience. So Derek Coro, he is another guy. He's on the top 100 prospects list. He's at number 49, not quite as high as Gunderson. So I also like that Gunderson's name is a combination of Gunner and Henderson, just Gunderson. So that's another reason he's an interesting prospect. Obviously, little nod to the O's there. What's up, GMPF Holden, by the way? So anyway, Coro is another guy who's pushing to make the majors here at some point soon. He needs a little more time, I think, in AAA, but he was good last year in 17 games. He probably doesn't even need more time there if you look at where he is in his ratings, but I just want to start him there for the season and see how he's doing. And then he's a guy who come up probably first in long relief. Chance Mako's another guy who's been pretty high up in my prospects lists at times. He's not in the top 100, but he pitched well at AA last year. And then Sean Sullivan is a guy who's been up before. He was my first-round pick back in 24. He came up and was very good early on when he first came up with us, right here in 25, and did decently the next year in 26. And then last year struggled. I think there was an injury, and just things weren't as good. I got to look at this again. Let's see. This one, hamstring strain, that happened last year. So he missed some time there. So he's going to start in AAA. We'll see. I mean, I'd like to get him back up in the bullpen at some point this season. And I haven't given up on him at all as a potential starter down the road. Barrett Kent is another guy who has, I like where his ratings are. Some of these maybe they could be a little higher, but if his control ends up being there or maybe a little higher, he has potential. So we'll see what happens with him. But he was at AAA for a little bit last year after performing decently at AA. I think he might have been an AI promotion there. But we'll see how things go with him. I don't expect him to pan out in a huge way, but he's a guy I'm going to keep an eye on, and he's only 23. So you have those guys there. And then, we've got some interesting arms out here in the bullpen. Terry Busey's been up before. Maybe no relation to Gary Busey. Not really sure. Maybe we can check on that. Billy Sullivan is interesting. He has some control issues, but excellent stuff and movement. He was really good in spring training, but it was a numbers game. I just didn't have that much room. And with his control issues, I wasn't as high on him as some other guys, but I really want to give him a shot at the majors here at some point soon. This guy, Michel Miliano, he was a minor league free agent signing of ours in this offseason because I thought he looked interesting with some of these ratings here. Don't know about his control, but we'll see. So he didn't have a good spring. And these are not good numbers at all. So we'll see how he does at AAA. Right now they have him slated to be the closer. So these are some of the guys down there that are interesting to me, especially the starters. And we'll see how that goes. Just looking at some other prospects quickly before we move on and get this ball club headed towards opening day. Just in the player development area, I have a couple international free agents that I signed recently, just this year, who are high on my list. We already talked about the two pitchers there, Gunderson and Coro. Got another international guy. Then these Roby and White are some draft picks who are still really young. Austin Nye is a guy at AA who has some potential, and we'll see where he goes, but he does not have any innings above high A yet, so we're starting him at AA, and he's also young. He's not quite 22. Just looking through a couple others here. This guy was an international free agent of ours who's now at rookie ball. Ethan McIlvain is another pitching prospect who I'm going to keep an eye on. We'll see. He's a Double-A this year, and he has looked like his stats have not matched up to where I thought he was maybe headed when I saw his potential here. So I don't know. I think he is just not. I have to look at his ratings here. He has dropped off a little bit. So back in August of last season, this is when I was thinking maybe he was headed somewhere, but my scout's way down on him now. So I don't know. I thought he was maybe headed upwards here, but we'll see. I'm not sure about Ethan at this point, but we'll start him in Double-A and see what happens. Not a huge prospect for us at the moment. So that's kind of where we are right now with some of the prospects. If you have any questions about these guys, just throw it in the comments, and I will check it out. But I think we are just about ready to move ahead towards opening day, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, opening day. The result wasn't ideal, but it was a good game. We were in the game. It was a tie game. We had the lead a couple of times. It was a tie game going into the 9th. And that's when Minnesota brought the winning run across the plate. We had RBIs from 3 different guys, Arenado, Morgan, and Arias. And our pitching was good. We didn't walk a lot of guys, didn't give up very many hits at all. It wasn't until the 9th when our manager brought our closer in the top of the 9th to try to keep the game tied that things fell apart. He just didn't have his best stuff, and that's the way it goes. Hopefully the results get better from here, and we move on from opening day. So it's just one game, Bashletics fans. In the next episode, I'm going to show you a look inside our stadium. It's taken me a bit of time with the 3D modeling to get it ready, and it's still not quite there, but it's a work in progress, and I'll show you that in the next episode. Until then, thank you, and hit subscribe if you aren't already following the channel.